before Zeus ever sat on a throne, before Olympus existed, before there were gods to pray to or heroes to sing about. There was nothing but a vast, formless gap. Out of that gap came the first god, then the first war, a father against his own son, deciding who would rule reality itself. Everything you already know, Zeus's lightning bolt, Medusa's stare, Hercules and his 12 labors, happens after this story. This is the one nobody tells you first, even though it's the one everything else is built on. This is Greek mythology from the beginning. No prior knowledge required. Mythology wasn't just old stories. For the ancient Greeks, these myths answered the questions every human eventually asks. Why does the sun rise? Why do people fall in love? Why do bad things happen to good people? Religion was the practice, temples, sacrifices, festivals, actual worship. Mythology was the story layer on top, the narratives that gave those gods personalities and histories. These stories were told and retold for over 1,000 years, which is why you'll sometimes hear two different versions of the same myth. Both count. That's not a mistake in the tradition. That is the tradition. And it's exactly why these stories outlived the religion itself. They were never only about worship. They were about human nature, dressed in divine clothing. According to Hesiod, writing around 700 BCE, the universe didn't begin with a god. It began with a gap. Chaos came first, not disorder, but a yawning, formless void. From chaos came Gaia, the earth herself, and alongside her, Tartarus, a bottomless abyss beneath the world. Then came Eros, the raw force of attraction that would drive nearly everything that happened next. Chaos alone also produced Erebus and Nyx, darkness and night, whose children would become day and the bright upper air. Gaia, meanwhile, brought forth Uranos, the sky, to cover her. Together, Gaia and Uranos had 12 children, the Titans. Uranos feared his own children and imprisoned some of them. Monstrous siblings called the Cyclopes and the 100-handed ones, inside Gaia's own body. In pain and fury, Gaia armed her children with a great sickle and asked them to strike back. Only one, Cronus, was bold enough. He overthrew his father, and in Hesiod's account, the blood that fell into the sea gave rise to Aphrodite, born from the foam itself. A later tradition, recorded in the Homeric hymns, instead calls her the daughter of Zeus and the goddess Dione. Ancient Greeks knew both versions and never fully picked one. Cronus became ruler of the cosmos, married his sister Rhea, and inherited the same prophecy that had doomed his father. One of his own children would overthrow him. So Cronus swallowed each of his children the moment they were born: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. When the sixth, Zeus, arrived, Rhea couldn't bear it again. She hid the infant on Crete and fed Cronus a stone wrapped in cloth instead. Zeus grew up in secret, then returned and forced Cronus to disgorge his siblings alive. Together, the six declared war on the Titans, the Titanomachy. 10 years of stalemate ended only when Zeus freed the imprisoned Cyclopes and 100-handed ones from Tartarus. The Cyclopes forged Zeus's thunderbolt, Poseidon's trident, and a helmet of invisibility for Hades. The 100-handed ones hurled boulders by the hundreds. Overwhelmed, the Titans were cast down into Tartarus and sealed there. The universe was divided among the victors. Zeus took the sky, Poseidon the sea, Hades the underworld. A new order had begun. The victorious gods made their home on Mount Olympus, a peak so tall it rose above the clouds, beyond any mortal's reach. From here ruled the 12 Olympians. The lineup shifts slightly by source. since Hades usually ruled the underworld rather than living on Olympus. But the core 12 nearly everyone agrees on are Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Hermes, and Dionysus. Let's meet them. Zeus, king of the gods, sky, thunder, law, symbol, the thunderbolt, and the eagle. He ruled through strength, not wisdom alone, a just lawgiver who also pursued countless mortal women, fathering heroes like Heracles and Perseus. His defining myth beyond the Titan War is defeating Typhon, a monster so powerful even the gods fled Olympus first. His name survives in Jupiter, his Roman equivalent. Hera, queen of the gods, marriage, women, family. Symbol, the peacock. Often reduced to the jealous wife in pop culture, she was worshipped as marriage's protector, ironic, given how often Zeus tested it. She spent years punishing his lovers and their children, including a young Heracles. Poseidon, god of the sea, also earthquakes and horses. Symbol, the trident. Volatile and quick to anger, he lost Athens' patronage to Athena and reportedly never forgave it. His title, Earthshaker, gives us the modern word seismic. Hades, god of the underworld, not evil, just inevitable. Symbol, his helmet of invisibility, and Cerberus. Death itself was a separate god, Thanatos. Hades simply ruled where the dead ended up. His most famous myth, the abduction of Persephone, reads differently depending on the source. Sometimes a straightforward abduction, sometimes an arrangement sanctioned by Zeus. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic war. Symbol, the owl, born fully grown and armored from Zeus's own head. She favored clever heroes like Odysseus over brute strength and won Athens' patronage with the gift of the olive tree. The city still bears her name. Apollo, god of the sun, music, and prophecy. Symbol, the lyre. He governed the oracle at Delphi, the most important prophetic site in Greece, and his myths often warn against mortal pride, as when the satyr Marsyas was flayed for losing a music contest to him. Artemis, goddess of the hunt, Apollo's twin. Symbol, the bow. She chose eternal independence and fiercely protected nature, once turning a hunter who spied on her into a stag to be killed by his own hounds. NASA's modern moon missions carry her name. Ares, god of war, chaos, and bloodshed, not strategy. Symbol, the spear. Genuinely unpopular even among the Greeks themselves, who preferred Athena's version of conflict. His affair with Aphrodite was exposed by her husband Hephaestus in a literal net trap. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, born, depending on the tradition, from sea foam or as Zeus's daughter. Symbol, the dove. Married to Hephaestus but famously unfaithful, her choice in a beauty contest among goddesses arguably set the Trojan War in motion. Hephaestus, god of the forge. Symbol, the hammer. Thrown from Olympus as an infant and permanently lamed by the fall, he became the god's master craftsman anyway, forging Zeus's thunderbolts and Achilles' armor. His Roman name, Vulcan, gives us volcano. Hermes, messenger of the gods, travel, trade, thieves. Symbol, winged sandals. Clever from birth, he stole Apollo's cattle the day he was born. He was the only god able to move freely between Olympus, Earth, and the underworld, guiding souls to the afterlife. Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Symbol, wheat. When Hades abducted her daughter Persephone, Demeter's grief let the earth go barren. The Greeks' explanation for winter itself, resolved only when Zeus brokered a yearly compromise between mother and husband. Dionysus, god of wine and ecstasy, the youngest Olympian, and the only one born to a mortal mother. Symbol, the grapevine. He represented the loss of control the Greeks both feared and craved. Greek theater itself grew directly out of festivals held in his honor. Gods ruled the cosmos, but mortal heroes gave these myths their emotional stakes. Heracles, son of Zeus, is remembered for his 12 labors, a punishment assigned after Hera drove him to madness, including slaying the Nemean lion and the ever-regenerating Hydra. Perseus beheaded Medusa using a reflective shield to avoid her petrifying gaze, then used her severed head to rescue Andromeda from a sea monster. Odysseus, hero of Homer's Odyssey, won the Trojan War through cunning, the Trojan horse, then spent 10 years fighting his way home past monsters and gods. Achilles, greatest warrior of the Trojan War, was nearly invulnerable but for one heel. His story is as much about wounded pride as it is about combat. Jason led the Argonauts to retrieve the Golden Fleece, aided and later betrayed by the sorceress Medea. Theseus, founder hero of Athens, entered the labyrinth to kill the Minotaur, using a single thread from Ariadne to find his way back out. They mattered because they modeled something the eternal gods couldn't, choosing to act bravely despite the certainty of death. Every hero needed something terrifying to define themselves against. Medusa, once mortal, was cursed with living snakes for hair and a gaze that turned onlookers to stone, killed by Perseus, who never looked at her directly. The Hydra, a serpent that regrew 2 heads for every one severed, fell only when Heracles learned to cauterize each wound. Cerberus, the 3-headed hound, guarded the underworld's gates, captured alive by Heracles in his final, most dangerous labor. The Minotaur, half man and half bull, was fed a yearly tribute of Athenian youths inside the labyrinth, until Theseus ended the cycle. The Chimera, lion's body, goat's head, serpent's tail, breathing fire, was killed by Bellerophon riding the winged horse Pegasus. Typhon, the most powerful monster in Greek myth, nearly overthrew Zeus himself before being struck down and buried beneath Mount Etna. Each monster represented a specific fear, transformation, endless suffering, inevitable death that the hero had to face and survive. Greek mythology never really ended. It just kept changing shape. Rome didn't invent new gods. It renamed the Greek ones. Zeus became Jupiter, Aphrodite became Venus. The influence runs through language too. Panic comes from Pan, the god of sudden irrational fear, and chaos comes straight from Hesiod's first primordial force. Astronomy borrowed the pantheon wholesale. Nearly every planet carries a Roman god's name, and constellations like Orion still map mythological figures onto the stars. Even psychology reached back for its vocabulary. Freud's Oedipus complex is just one example of myth becoming a language for describing the human mind itself. And modern movies, games, and books keep retelling these same stories, because the questions they ask about power, mortality, and fate never stopped mattering. So that's the beginning. Chaos to Gaia, Gaia to the Titans to the Olympians, and the Olympians to the heroes and monsters who filled in the rest of the story. But this was only the map. Every god, every hero, every monster introduced today has an entire myth of their own still waiting. Zeus's full rise, the complete Titan War, Hades and the underworld explained scene by scene. If any one name in this video caught your attention, that's exactly where Mythverse goes next.